Hello friends, today I take up a new topic and the name of the topic is why Alexander retreated from India. Friends, as you know that Alexander the Great of Macedonia stayed in India, the northwestern India for 19 months. From 326 BC to 325 BC. Now, what were the repercussions of the Alexander's invasion on the northwestern India? So, my lesson plan includes introduction. Secondly, causes of the invasion by Alexander the Great, courses of war, causes of the defeat of the Indian kings, why Alexander retreated from the bank of the river Bias, effects of Alexander's invasion on India, and finally conclusion. So friends, now I will discuss one by one all these points so that the picture must be clear. So friends, if you like my channel AJIS Academy, just type on YouTube and subscribe. You will find numerous videos covering Indian history, Constitution of India, Indian geography, Indian economy, general science, general mathematics and logical reasoning. So you need not go anywhere. You will find all topics at our channel. This is a free channel. Please subscribe and share with your friends. So friends, now let us start the proceedings. This is the map. This is the map of the areas acquired by Alexander the Great. As you know that Alexander, now he was from Macedonia, and from this area, you see this is Athens, and now from this Macedonia area, he went through Turkey and then Arabia, Baghdad, all these areas like the important city in ancient time like Susa, Ekebatan, which was the part of Persia, and then he went through Central Asia, the present day Turkmenistan, then Kabul, and thereafter he crossed Indus River. So, and then to Bias River, and thereafter he retreated via Indus River. This one. This was the route of his return, coming back from northwestern India. And while he was resting at Babylon, the present day Iraq, he died of fatal fever in 323 BC. So, the dream of the consolidation of his acquired territories shattered to the ground because of his untimely death. So friends, you see this this area, the entire area was a part of the empire of Alexander the Great, from Macedonia to Bias River. Now, this is another map, and this pink color denotes the area covered, the areas under Alexander the Great. These areas. Now you see from this map in India, the contemporary king was from the Nanda dynasty, and its last king was Dhannan. And when Alexander was on the way of invading India and reached up to the Vyas river, Nanda dynasty and its ruler Dhannan, who was very much unpopular at that time, and his capital was at Patliputra, modern day Patna. And so this area, you see these areas were covered by the Nanda dynasty, almost half of the present day India. Now, it was because of the unpopularity of Dhannan and the disrespect shown to a Brahmin Kautilya or Chanakya, that led to the downfall of Dhannan. And thereafter what you see, that in 321 BC, a new dynasty, Maurya dynasty, came on the throne of Patliputra, and slowly Chandragupta Maurya captured entire India except far south and in northwestern up to Hindu Kush mountain. So this is another map of the contemporary India at the time of the invasion by Alexander on the northwestern in India. Now I switch over to another point, that is introduction. Friends, as you know that during 4th century BC, the control of Achaemenid rulers of Iran became weak. Their strongholds on Sindh, the western frontier and Punjab became weak. A small, as you know that in 516 BC, Darius first of the Achaemenid rulers of Iran or Persia captured the area of Sindh, northwestern frontier areas, and large chunk of Punjab. And so these areas form 28th province of Achaemenid Empire, and it fetched 1/3 of the total revenue that Achaemenid Empire was getting at the time. These areas were very much fertile, highly populated areas, and so it was one of the most important provinces of Achaemenid rulers. Now with the passage of time, we see that during the period of Xerxes, the power of Achaemenid ruler declined and its hold over northwestern frontier areas started dwindling. Moreover, Alexander the Great captured entire areas of Achaemenid Empire, and so we see that I have shown you the map. The Alexander the Great captured the modern day Iran, Iraq, most of the parts of Central Asia like Turkmenistan, northern Afghanistan, southern Afghanistan. So these areas formed part of Macedonian Empire. the entire Anatolia or Turkey or Asia Minor, all these areas were the part of Macedonia under Alexander the Great. So, what you see, that before the arrival of Alexander the Great into northwestern India, in a small principalities sprang up in northwestern areas, and we have information that between the river Indus and Chenab there was a ruler named Ambi whose capital was at Taxila. It was one of the most important cities in northwestern areas, and we find that in a modern period Taxila was the capital of western part of Mauryan Empire. Again, Taxila was also the important center of learning. It had excellent university, and Chanakya or Kautilya is said to be the resident of Taxila. Taxila was also the center of Gandhara art, which was Greco-Indian or Greco-Buddhist art that flourished around Taxila, Peshawar and Gandhar, and that was called Gandhar art, which continued to remain popular up to 8th century AD. And I have already discussed in detail about Gandhar art in my previous videos. Please see this. Now, Porus was the king of the area between Jhelum and Chenab. So, two important principalities were one led by Ambi and another by Porus. While Ambi succumbed to the pressure of the might of Alexander, Porus valiantly opposed him. Now, we switch over to another point, that is causes of the invasion by Alexander. Why Alexander invaded India? Number one, fabulous wealth of India. Friends, as you know, there is Herodotus. Herodotus, who is called father of history. Now, according to his accounts and accounts of contemporary writers, India was reputed to be the country of fabulous wealth. So, one of the temptations of invading India by Alexander was to grab fabulous wealth of India. Number one. Number two, Alexander was very much curious about knowing the geographical inquiry and natural history, and that's why he started on the journey of capturing one area after another area. Again, there was an urge to emulate and surpass past conquerors, and again there was imperialistic design, imperialistic ambition to become a great conqueror in the annals of history. And northwest India was dotted with a small principalities because of the weakening of the hold of Achaemenid Empire. Our present day Sindh, northwestern frontier and Punjab, large part of Punjab. So you see that north in West India was dotted with so many small principalities or small monarchies or tribal republics. And that's why Alexander decided to invade India because he thought that there will be resistance from these small powers. These were the factors that combined together, and Alexander made up his mind to invade India in 326 BC. Now this is the map of the period during the invasion by Alexander. You see, this is the red areas. The red areas covered. These areas were under Alexander's empire, and you know that in previous map I have already shown you that Alexander's empire comprised Turkey, Anatolia, Asia Minor, present-day Iran, Iraq, Arabia, and the modern-day countries of Central Asia like Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. So all the areas, this is the Hindu Kush mountain. This is the Hindu Kush mountain, and the areas north of Hindu Kush mountain form the part of Alexander's empire, and then he crossed Hindu Kush mountain in 327 and captured modern-day Afghanistan, its capital Kabul, and thereafter in 326 he crossed Indus River. This is the Indus River, and then Chenab, then Jhelum, and thereafter Byas. So Alexander reached up to the bank of Byas River by defeating Ambi, by defeating Porus. Now this is the territory of the contemporary Nanda dynasty, Nanda Empire. Now you can see that during those days it was the Nanda Empire which was having 4 times more military power than the military power of Alexander. And so, fearing the steep resistance, fearing the defeat at the hand of Nanda army, the army of Alexander retreated. So you see that during those days of Alexander invasion, it was the Nanda Empire, it's a might that worked as a psychological factor for the Macedonian army, which retreated, which did not advance. Now, this is another map, and you can see that these shaded lines are the part of Nanda Empire, and Kaling, nowadays it is the present day Orissa, also formed part of Nanda Empire. Later on it got itself freed from the Nanda dynasty, and we see that during the period of Ashoka, this Kaling was again captured by Samrat Ashoka in 261 BC. So this is the situation at the time of the invasion by the Alexander the Great. Now I switch over to another point, courses of war. How the movement of Alexander the Great was conditioned by the steep resistance offered by local princes. So you see that number one, before the arrival of Alexander on the bank of the river Indus, he had already decimated the Achaemenid Empire of Persia by annexing the present-day Iran, Iraq, Arabia, Turkey. So the Achaemenid Empire was completely shattered by Alexander the Great. Again, campaign began in 327 BC, as I have already told you, when he crossed Hindu Kush mountain and moved towards India. Thereafter, marched towards the Indus River, no resistance by local leaders. And I have already told you that during those times, the northwestern areas were dotted with so many small principalities of monarchies and local tribal republics. They were not in the position to face challenges posed by the Macedonian army. And so there was complete lack of resistance by local leaders. So one by one, the Macedonian army captured the area between Indus and between Chenab and Jhelum. The area between Indus and Chenab was ruled by Ambi, who did not fight, he surrendered before Alexander. Again, the area between Jhelum and Yas, it was governed by Porus, and so Porus fought valiantly. His son was also killed in the battle, but ultimately, when he was captured, Alexander asked him as to what kind of behavior he deserved. Porus told him that treat him like a king. So Alexander became very much pleased to listen to his answer, a brave answer, and then he returned all the areas between Chenab and Jhelum to Porus, and Porus made alliance with Alexander the Great. The first resistance by the king Pushkalavati, the modern day Peshawar, and the king of Pushkalavati fought valiantly and died in defense of his capital. Pushkalavati is the modern day Peshawar in Pakistan. In 326 BC, Alexander crossed Indus and defeated Ambi, the king of Taxila. I have already told you. Again, war with Porus. Porus was also defeated, but his kingdom was returned. Alexander reached the bank of river Bias, but his army could not advance, fearing the might of Nanda army. And according to some contemporary accounts, Nanda army constituted around 6 lakhs foot soldiers. So, you see, another cause was that his army had become war-weary, exhausted, and suffered from homesickness, because for the last 10 years, Alexander was on the that his army became very much exhausted, and that's why they decided not to advance further in India. And so Alexander returned via sailing down the Jhelum to the lower Indus basin, and all these areas were captured or vanquished by Alexander. The local tribes were already defeated, and Sindh was conquered. So Alexander returned to Persia in 324 BC, and thereafter in 323 BC, while he was at Babylon, the present day Iraq, he died of fatal fever. And so his dream of the consolidation of his conquered empire shattered to the ground. Now, another point to be mentioned here as to what were the causes for the defeat of the Indian kings. Number one, as I have already told you, there was lack of unity among Indian princes. There were constant fight among local princes. Alexander was one of the greatest generals that the world produced. He had got extraordinary capabilities to lead his army. Again, Greek army was very much disciplined force and was better organized. Again, Indian army was unwieldy and lacked discipline and was untrained. Now, elephants were used by Indian princes in war. So, at times it became liability rather than assets. When elephants became angry, they started trampling down their own people. And so, this was another cause of the defeat of Indian princes. Alexander and his army used horses, better quality horses. It gave them extra mobility in the battlefield. Moreover, archers, when sitting on the mount of horses, they further added to their mobility. The Indian princes could not match in the power of weaponry and mobility. And again, because of the rain and stormy weather, when Alexander invaded northwestern India, it was a period of rainy season, and because of the stormy weather, Indian chariots could not move quickly and got stuck in the rainy season. Friends, as you know that during those days, chariot was one of the important part of the Indian armed forces. And according to Pliny, we know that during modern period, there were 9,000 charioteers in modern army. So we can see the charioteers played very much important role in Indian warfare. But since the time was the rainy season, because of the stormy weather, the chariots got stuck in the rain-soaked mud, and so they could not move easily, and it was also an added cause for the defeat of Indian princes. Again, complacency of Indian princes. They were of the opinion that during the rainy season, when the river Jhelum is flooded, no army can cross over it. and so they became very much complacent. But Alexander showed his master stroke by crossing Jhelum river during the rainy season, and on the face of the onslaught of Alexander, Indian princes were taken unawares. So these were the factors that led to the defeat of Indian princes against Alexander the Great. Now I switch over to another point, why Alexander retreated from the bank of river Bias. I have already narrated it, but now I elaborate one by one. Number one, war weariness of his army, and I have already told you that Alexander was campaigning for the last 10 years, and so his army had become very much exhausted. They had become homesick. Now, a steep resistance offered by local kings also daunted the courage of Macedonian army. It was not an easy win like Achaemenid forces or army. Alexander won the entire Iran or Iraq with ease, without least resistance from the Achaemenid army. But in the case of India, northwestern India, local tribes, local leaders, local princes gave a steep resistance to Alexander and his army. Now, they have also heard from different accounts, contemporary accounts, that there is a mighty Nanda dynasty at Patliputra having more than 6 lakhs soldiers at their command. So, all these factors deterred them from advancing eastward, and that's why Alexander's army decided not to listen to the command of Alexander, and that's why he decided to retreat. Now, another point to be discussed is effects of Alexander's invasion. Friends, as you know, that establishment of direct contact between India and Greece became possible. Number one, Greek settlement increased in the northwestern areas, helped in establishing in Indian chronology of subsequent years, and because of the invasion of Alexander, we could know the achievements of Chandragupta Maurya, because in Greek accounts, Chandragupta is called Sandrocotus. And since when Sandrocotus or Chandragupta Maurya ascended the throne at Patliputra was decided by the period or the time factor of the invasion by the Alexander the Great. So, in ancient India, the chronological setting became possible because of the Alexander's invasion on India. Again, the accounts of Greek historians tells us about the socio-economic condition prevalent in northwestern India, like sati system was prevalent at that time. Poor people sold their daughter in bazaar or market. The position of lower caste was very much pitiable. So all these socio-economic conditions during the period of Alexander's invasion was narrated by Greek historians, and we have ample evidence about them. Now, exploration of the coast and harbors of the mouth of Indus to that of Euphrates was completed. By destroying petty states, Alexander paved the way for the establishment of the great Mauryan Empire in India. And friends, as you know that the Mauryans, particularly Chandragupta Maurya, established the greatest empire in India, whose northern boundary touched Hindu Kush mountain in Afghanistan and its southern boundary was up to the present day Mysore or Karnataka state, leaving aside extreme far south like present day Tamil Nadu and Kerala, Nepal, present day Nepal, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh form part of, or Afghanistan, southern Afghanistan form part of the empire of Chandragupta Maurya. So friends, by destroying the petty principalities, Alexander the Great paved the way for the establishment of the Mauryan Empire in the entire Indian subcontinent. Now, because of the Alexander's invasion, it led to the boosting of trade and commerce between India and Central Asia and Western Europe. So friends, these were the important factors that had effects upon India on account of invasion of Alexander the Great. Now I switch over to the conclusion. What was the conclusion? What conclusion can be derived from this lecture? Number one, all the information are from Greek and Roman historians regarding Alexander's invasion upon India. Indian sources are very much silent. Some of the kings bowed easily before Alexander, but others fought bravely and resolutely. Third, the stiff resistance by Indian rulers were far better than the Persian kings, who surrendered before Macedonian army. Alexander remained in India for 19 months, and from 326 BC to 325 BC. And again, during this period, he was busy constantly fighting one princess after another. He wanted to consolidate his conquest, and that's why he posted big garrisons at strategic points, appointed governors over different regions like Sindh, Kabul, Punjab, conciliated his mighty opponents like Porus, and handed over the entire vanquished territory to Porus and made him alliance with him. Constructed docks and harbors at the mouth of Indus Delta. Tried to explore the easiest route between India and Greece. The premature death of Alexander in Babylon in 323 BC destroyed his dream of consolidation of the empire. All vestiges of Greek occupation were destroyed and swept away. Friends, as you know that after the demise of Alexander the Great, one of his commanders, Seleucus Nicator, became the ruler of north of Indus River and Central Asia, and we know from different accounts that Chandragupta Maurya had with Seleucus Nicator first, in which Chandragupta Maurya defeated him, but by the treaty, Chandragupta Maurya handed over 500 elephants to Seleucus, and in return he ceded the territory between Hindu Kush and Indus River, that were the part of Macedonia, I mean Alexander Empire. So Seleucus also married his daughter to Chandragupta Maurya. So by that treaty, an amicable relation was established between Greeks and the Mauryan dynasty. And later on we find that large settlements were of Greeks in those areas like present-day Afghanistan and Central Asia, or at that time it was called Bactria. So what you see, that because of the mixing of two civilizations, a new art form called Gandhar art developed, and this Gandhar art was the mixture of Greco-Buddhist art. So friends, now I am winding up this discussion. I hope that you might have enjoyed my lecture. If you have any suggestions, please write your comments in the comment box. Stay fit. Thank you very much.